Ironically, no expertise on the South or poverty or the law. It pretends to be an expert on hate groups, but of course the irony is it is one. Trey Radel is a former congressman from the state of Florida. He just wrote an expose on how the Southern Poverty Law Center attacks, harasses, terrorizes people it doesn't agree with across the country, and everyone's afraid to say so except him, which is why he joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks for coming on. What happened? Tell us your experience with the SPLC.
Sure. So Southern Poverty Law Center is now one of these trusted partnerships with Google and YouTube, flagging videos that are of hate speech. Look, in 2013, when I was in Congress, I did an interview with a blogger who interpreted my interview saying that we need checks and balances on the executive branch, as that I wanted to suddenly impeach President Obama. Well, sure enough, with the way that viral news travels, no journalist from even credible news organizations called me. They circulated this story that I wanted to impeach President Obama, which I never, ever said. Sure enough, I never received a call from the Southern Poverty Law Center a few months later, who put me on their list of haters and extremists. Now, look, what I'm about to say, I don't say to toot my own horn, but I'm trilingual. I have lived in or backpacked around the world, living off like $10 a day because I love culture, I love people, and I love to learn. I've always done everything I can to inject myself into foreign cultures to absorb as much as I can. And of course, I've always loved politics and foreign policy. They put me on a list, man, with a guy who went into a Sikh temple in Wisconsin, shot it up and killed 6 people, and a whole litany list of neo-Nazis.
And this was, I mean, not that I doubt it, but I just want to make sure I have this precisely. Simply because they believed you called for Obama's impeachment, which, by the way, is a constitutional mechanism. I mean, you know, people can agree or disagree, but that's not the same as hate speech. I mean, people call for impeachment all the time. Right.
At all. And yet you're exactly right. It's a process, right? And if we remove our emotion from it, it is what it is, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Right. Again, I never even called for his impeachment, but I was placed on that list, and they tried to essentially discredit and destroy me. The other person on that list, by the way, was Senator Rand Paul. Senator Rand Paul, too, who has been a vocal opponent of things like the war on drugs, saying how hurtful it is to our minority communities around the United States. But because we have an R by our names, we have been discredited and called haters. Look, Tucker, I would even go to President Donald Trump. Before President Donald Trump was president, you had this whole narrative has changed on him. He at one time was beloved by hip-hop stars who wanted their picture with him and sang about him. Democrats gladly took his money from him. As soon as he becomes a Republican candidate for president of the United States, suddenly he's a misogynist, bigoted hater. I swear to God, if we had if Republicans had a lesbian, gay, transgender, or gender-fluid, multiracial candidate that was attempting to get into the White House today, that person, too, would be called bigoted, misogynistic, and hateful.
Yeah, I think we're too literal. It's not about any of that. It's about power, and anything that gets in the way of their acquiring and wielding power must be destroyed. Thank you for reminding us of that, Congressman. Trey Radel joining us.
Good to be with you, Tucker.